Hennessy, come out and play.
I was this bad be good and that I was drunk, you crazy.
The facts. I know people are thinking about it. I know they're thinking about it. I think some people have been very close to asking.
We're nearing the end of our journey through one of the most shocking celebrity trials in American history. But before we close this chapter, I want you to think about something. What does justice look like in a case like this? Is it a guilty verdict that sends a billionaire to prison for the rest of his life? Is it an acquittal that allows him to rebuild his empire? Or is it something more complex? A reckoning with the systems of power that allow these alleged crimes to happen in the first place? Here is episode 7. Do not forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Let's start with what's immediately at stake. If Sean Diddy Combs is convicted on all charges, he faces a minimum of 15 years in federal prison. But the maximum sentence is life behind bars. Life. That means he could die in prison, never again experiencing the freedom that his billion-dollar empire once bought him. But it's not just about prison time. As we discussed earlier, his $35 million Star Island mansion could be seized by the government under federal forfeiture laws. His other properties, his businesses, his entire financial empire could be dismantled piece by piece. Think about that transformation. From a billionaire music mogul to a federal prisoner with nothing but a prison uniform and a cell. It's a fall from grace that would be unprecedented in the entertainment industry. But what if he's acquitted? What if his $15 million dream team succeeds in creating reasonable doubt? What if the jury decides that the government hasn't proven its case beyond a reasonable doubt? An acquittal wouldn't just mean freedom for Diddy. It would send a message about accountability in America. It would suggest that wealth and power can still shield you from consequences, even when faced with detailed testimony from alleged victims and extensive physical evidence. And what would that mean for Jane, the woman who found the courage to testify against one of the most powerful men in entertainment? What would it mean for other potential victims who might be watching this case, wondering if it's worth speaking out against their own abusers? But here's what I think is most important about this case. It's not really about Sean Combs. It's about the systems that enabled the alleged behavior. It's about an industry that has long protected powerful men while silencing their victims. It's about a culture that equates wealth with worth and power with permission. Former federal prosecutor Niyama Ramani points out that this case comes down to coercion versus consent. But I would argue that it's about something even bigger than that. It's about whether we, as a society, are willing to hold powerful people accountable for their actions. Think about the broader implications of this case. If the allegations are true, they suggest that for years, possibly decades, a system of abuse was operating in plain sight. People knew. People saw, people participated. And yet, it continued. How many other powerful figures in entertainment, politics, business, and other industries have similar systems in place? How many victims are still suffering in silence because they don't believe they'll be heard or believed? The Tartar Me Too movement showed us that sexual abuse and harassment are far more widespread than most people realized. But this case takes it a step further. It's not just about individual acts of abuse. It's about organized, systematic exploitation backed by unlimited resources. And that brings us to perhaps the most important question of all. What happens next? Regardless of the verdict in this case, what changes? If Diddy is convicted, it might send a message that no one is above the law, regardless of their wealth or status. It might encourage other victims to come forward. It might force the entertainment industry to take a hard look at its own practices and power structures. But if he's acquitted, it might have the opposite effect. It might discourage victims from speaking out. It might reinforce the idea that wealth and power are the ultimate protection against accountability. Here's what I know for certain. This case has already changed things. Jane's testimony, regardless of the verdict, has put a spotlight on the dynamics of abuse and control in ways that are impossible to ignore. The evidence presented in this trial has shown us what systematic exploitation can look like when it's backed by unlimited resources. And the legal strategies we've seen, the $15 million defense, the jury selection issues, the fights over transparency versus victim protection, have shown us both the strengths and weaknesses of our justice system when it comes to high-profile cases. But perhaps most importantly, this case has shown us the courage it takes for victims to speak out against powerful abusers. Jane didn't have to testify. She could have stayed silent, taken whatever money was offered, tried to move on with her life. But she chose to speak her truth, knowing that it would subject her to scrutiny, harassment, and attempts to destroy her credibility. That courage, the courage to speak truth to power, even when that power has unlimited resources to fight back. That's what this case is really about. As this trial moves toward its conclusion, as the jury prepares to deliberate, as we all wait to see what verdict they'll reach, I want you to remember something. Justice isn't just about what happens in a courtroom. It's about what we do with the knowledge we've gained. It's about whether we choose to believe victims when they speak out. It's about whether we hold powerful people accountable for their actions. It's about whether we work to change the systems that enable abuse and exploitation. The Diddy trial will end with a verdict, but the reckoning it represents, the broader conversation about power, abuse, and accountability in America, that's just beginning. And that reckoning will be determined not by 12 jurors in a Manhattan courtroom, but by all of us. By how we respond to what we've learned. By whether we choose to look the other way or demand better from the people and institutions we support. The question isn't just whether Sean Combs is guilty or innocent. The question is, what kind of society do we want to be? One that protects the powerful at the expense of the vulnerable? Or one that stands up for justice, even when it's difficult, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it challenges everything we thought we knew? That's the real verdict we're all waiting for. And unlike the jury's decision, that verdict is up to each and every one of us. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into one of the most complex and disturbing celebrity trials of our time. If this documentary has affected you, if you're a survivor of abuse, or if you need support, please know that help is available. The National Sexual Assault Hotline is available 24/7 at 1-800-656-HOPE. You are not alone, and your voice matters. This documentary was based on public court records, testimony, and expert analysis. All individuals mentioned are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. If you found this content valuable, please like, subscribe, and share it with others. The conversation about power, abuse, and accountability doesn't end here. It's up to all of us to keep it going. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and never stop asking the hard questions.